The fluorescent lights of the pharmacy buzzed overhead as I stood at the counter, my 7-year-old daughter Maya pressed against my side. Her forehead burned with fever and she'd been coughing for 3 days straight. The pharmacist had already told me what I knew. She needed to see a doctor, not just grab over-the-counter medicine. "That'll be $47, the pharmacist said, sliding the prescription-strength cough syrup across the counter. I pulled out my wallet, counting the cash. $63. Enough for the medicine and maybe gas to get home. Not enough for the urgent care visit Maya actually needed. My phone buzzed. "We're at Aunt Linda's house for Sophie's birthday," her text read. "Where are you? You promised to bring Maya's gift." I typed back quickly. "Maya's sick. Really sick. I need to take her to urgent care, but I'm short on cash. Can you help?" The 3 dots appeared, then disappeared. Then appeared again. "We'll discuss this when you get here. Sophie's waiting for her present." My stomach twisted. I looked down at Maya, whose glassy eyes stared up at me with complete trust. She thought I could fix anything. "Come on, baby," I whispered, leading her back to the car. The drive to Aunt Linda's house took 20 minutes. Maya dozed in the back seat, her breathing raspy and uneven. I'd wrapped Sophie's gift last week, an art set Maya had picked out herself, excited to give her cousin something special. It had cost me $85, money I'd saved from extra shifts at the call center. I pulled into the driveway behind Mom's Mercedes. Through the window I could see the party in full swing. Balloons, an elaborate cake, at least 30 people laughing and celebrating. I carried Maya inside, the wrapped gift under my other arm. "Finally," Mom said, not looking up from her conversation with Aunt Linda. "Put the gift on the table." "Mom, I need to talk to you," I said quietly. "Maya needs to see a doctor. She has a high fever and she's been—" "Not now," Mom cut me off. "This is Sophie's day." My sister Jessica appeared from the kitchen, balancing a tray of cupcakes. She took one look at Maya and wrinkled her nose. "She looks terrible. You should have left her home." "She's sick," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I need help getting her to urgent care." Jessica set down the tray. "You always do this. Always making everything about you and your problems. My daughter is sick. Sick or not, she deserves this," Mom said, suddenly right beside me. Her voice carried across the room, making several guests turn. "Sophie has been looking forward to this gift for weeks. Maya promised it to her." I felt Maya's grip tighten on my shirt. "Mom, please. I just need maybe $100. I'll pay you back next week, I promise." $100? Jessica laughed. "For what? So you can waste it like you waste everything else." "For a doctor," I said, hearing my voice crack. "For my daughter." Mom's expression hardened. "If you couldn't afford a doctor, maybe you should have thought about that before buying such an expensive gift for Sophie. Or better yet, return the gift and use that money." The room had gone quiet. 30 pairs of eyes watched us. "But Maya picked it out for Sophie," I said weakly. "She was so excited." "Then Maya should have thought about saving money for herself instead," Jessica interjected. She crossed her arms, that familiar smirk on her face. "You've always been irresponsible with money. Remember when Dad had to bail you out of that credit card debt? That had been 8 years ago, when I was putting myself through community college while working 2 jobs. Dad had given me $3,000, which I'd paid back in full within a year." "That's different," I started. "It's not different," Mom said firmly. "You make poor choices and then you expect us to fix them. Sophie deserves that gift. Hand it over." I looked at the wrapped box in my hands. Inside was the deluxe art set with oil pastels, watercolors, and professional-grade paper. Maya had saved her allowance for 3 months to contribute $20 toward it. "Mom, she's burning up." I tried one more time. "Please. Give Sophie her gift," Mom repeated. "Then we'll talk." But I knew we wouldn't talk. We'd never talk. This was how it always went. Jessica's needs first, Sophie's wants first, and Maya and I somewhere at the bottom of the priority list. I handed over the gift. Sophie squealed with delight, tearing into the wrapping paper. "Oh my God, I love it. This is exactly what I wanted." Jessica beamed, putting her arm around Sophie. "What do you say, sweetie?" "Thank you, Aunt Katie," Sophie called out, already examining the art supplies. I waited. Mom had gone back to her conversation. Jessica was taking photos of Sophie with the gift. "Mom," I said again, She turned irritated. What? The money. For the doctor. Oh, Katie. She sighed like I was a child asking for candy. I don't have cash on me right now. Maybe next week. Next week? Mom, she needs. You heard me. Next week. Now stop making a scene at Sophie's party. Jessica watched with that smile. That same smile she'd worn our entire lives whenever I got in trouble, whenever I struggled, whenever Mom chose her over me. I said nothing. There was nothing left to say. I picked up Maya and walked to my car. In the back seat, I held her while she coughed, feeling her small body shake with each breath. Then I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app. The numbers on the screen told a story Mom and Jessica knew nothing about. Over the past 6 years, I'd been making deposits into 3 accounts. Not my accounts. There's Mom's retirement fund. $400 monthly for 72 months. $34,800 total. Jessica's mortgage. $650 monthly for 48 months. $31,200 total. Sophie's college fund. $200 monthly for 60 months. $12,000 total. When Dad died 5 years ago, he'd left me everything. Not because he loved me more, but because he knew I'd take care of everyone. Make sure your mom's comfortable, he'd said in the hospital. Make sure Jessica doesn't lose the house. Make sure Sophie gets to go to college. And I had. Every month, without fail, I'd made the transfers from the trust fund Dad left me. Anonymous deposits that appeared in their accounts like magic. Mom thought her pension was just really good. Jessica thought she'd gotten a mortgage modification. They had no idea. I'd been living in a studio apartment, working overtime, driving a 12-year-old car with a broken air conditioner. All while they lived in comfort with my money. I pulled up Mom's retirement account, the one managed by Fidelity, where I was listed as the beneficiary and account supervisor per Dad's will. One call. Fidelity Investments, this is Marcus speaking. Hi Marcus, this is Katie Chin. I need to make a withdrawal from account number. One moment please. Keys clicked. Yes, Ms. Chin. How can I help you? I want to withdraw all funds and close the account. Pause. The full balance of $67,900? Yes. May I ask the reason for? It's my account. I want it closed. Of course. I'll need to verify your identity and... I went through the security questions. 2 minutes later it was done. The funds will be transferred to your primary account within 48 hours, Marcus confirmed. Next, I called Jessica's mortgage company. Hamilton Home Loans, this is Brenda. Hi Brenda. I need to discuss account. I'm the co-signer, Katie Chen. One moment. More clicking. Yes, how can I help you? I've been making additional principal payments on this mortgage for the past 4 years. I need to stop those payments immediately and remove myself as co-signer. Oh. Brenda's tone shifted. Well, to remove yourself as co-signer, the primary borrower would need to refinance or... What happens if I stop making the additional payments? The mortgage would revert to the original payment schedule. The current monthly payment would increase from $800 to $1,450. Perfect. Stop the additional payments effective immediately. Are you sure? This will significantly impact. I'm sure. One more call. Sophie's college fund at First National Bank. First National, this is Tom. I need to close account. I'll need to verify. After the security questions, this is a custodial account for a minor. Are you the custodian? Yes. Katie Chin. I want the full balance transferred to my primary account. That's $12,400. This will close the account permanently. I understand. It'll take 3 to 5 business days. That's fine. I hung up and looked at Maya, who'd finally fallen asleep in her car seat. My phone rang immediately. I didn't answer. It rang again. Jessica. I turned off the sound. Then I drove to the ATM, withdrew $200 from my personal account, and took Maya to urgent care. The doctor diagnosed her with bronchitis and wrote prescriptions for antibiotics and an inhaler. She'll be fine in a few days, he assured me. You brought her in at the right time. The medications cost $73. I paid cash. At home, I gave Maya her first dose of medicine and tucked her into bed. My phone screen showed 47 missed calls and 62 text messages. I read through them slowly. Mom, call me immediately. Jessica, what did you do? Mom, my retirement account is closed. They said you closed it. Jessica, my mortgage payment just tripled. Fix this now. Mom, how could you do this to your own mother? Jessica, Sophie is crying. You took her college money. Then the voicemails started. Mom's first message: Katie, I don't know what's going on, but Fidelity called and said my retirement account has been closed. They said the account holder, you apparently withdrawn everything. This must be a mistake. Call me back so we can fix this. Second message: Katie, this isn't funny. That's my retirement money. I need that account. Call me right now. Third message: your sister says her mortgage payment went up too. What did you do? Call me back immediately or I'm coming over there. Jessica's messages were similar, progressing from confused to angry to desperate. The final voicemail from Mom came at 11 p.m. Please stop. Please. I don't understand what happened, but I'm sorry. I'm sorry about today. Just please, we need to talk about this. That money, I need that money. Your sister needs her house payments. Please call me back. I deleted all the messages without responding. The next morning, Maya's fever had broken. She sat at our small kitchen table eating cereal, color already returning to her cheeks. Feeling better, baby? I asked. She nodded. My throat doesn't hurt as much. Good. The medicine is working. My phone buzzed. A text from Aunt Linda. Your mother is at my house. She's very upset. She says you stole her retirement money? What's going on? I typed back. I didn't steal anything. That was my money that I was giving her. I stopped giving it. 3 dots appeared then disappeared. No response came. An hour later there was a knock at my door. I looked through the peephole. Mom and Jessica both with red eyes. I opened the door but didn't invite them in. We need to talk, Mom said, her voice small. About what? About the money. About everything. Jessica stood behind her, arms crossed but silent. The smirk was gone. Did you know? Asked them. That I was the one making those deposits? Mom's face crumpled. What? Oh. We thought. You thought what? That money just appeared? That Dad's pension covered a retirement account that grew by $400 every month for 6 years. I don't understand, Mom whispered. Dad left me the trust fund. All of it. He asked me to take care of you. So I did. $400 a month to you. $650 to Jessica's mortgage. $200 to Sophie's college fund. Jessica's face had gone white. But the mortgage company said. Said what? That you qualified for a modification? Oh. I was making additional principal payments as a co-signer. Payments that reduced your monthly cost by $650. Oh my God, Jessica breathed. Yesterday my daughter was sick. Really sick. I needed $100 for urgent care. And you told me she deserved to give away her gift instead. You told me I was irresponsible with money. I looked at Mom. You told me to come back next week. I didn't know, Mom said, tears streaming down her face. We didn't know. Would it have mattered? I asked quietly. If you had known, would you have helped Maya yesterday? Neither of them answered. The accounts are closed, I said. The money I was giving you, it's done. You're on your own now. Katie, please, Jessica said, and I heard something I'd never heard from her before: fear. We can't afford the house without those payments. We'll lose everything. Then sell the house, I said. Downsize. Do what I've been doing for 6 years. Live within your means. But Sophie's college fund is something you should have been saving for yourselves. Like I'm saving for Maya's. Mom reached for my hand. Please. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry about yesterday. We'll help. Whatever Maya needs will help. She doesn't need your help anymore, I said. She has mine. And I have $78,000 that used to be yours. I stepped back and closed the door. Through the wood I heard Mom sobbing. I heard Jessica saying something I couldn't make out. But I didn't open the door. I went back to the kitchen where Maya was drawing with her crayons, healthy and happy and completely unaware that her gift to Sophie had cost my family their future. Mama, she said, holding up her picture. I drew us. 2 stick figures holding hands under a yellow sun. It's perfect, baby, I said and meant it. My phone buzzed one more time. A text from Mom. Please. We'll do anything. Just please don't do this. I blocked the number. Then I opened my banking app and set up a new automatic transfer. $500 monthly into Maya's college fund. We'd be fine. Better than fine. And for the first time in 6 years, every dollar I earned belonged to us. Your kids don't deserve that vacation, Mom announced at Sunday dinner, her fork pointing accusingly across the table. Not after refusing to share their room with your sister's kids. Do you know how disappointed those poor children were? I looked down at my plate, feeling the familiar weight of family judgment settling over me like a heavy blanket. The roast beef sat untouched, suddenly unappetizing. My 2 children, Emma and Jake, sat beside me in silence, their earlier excitement about our planned beach trip completely deflated. Emma's shoulders were hunched forward, her usual brightness dimmed. Jake pushed peas around his plate without eating. They wanted their own space for once, I said quietly. We've shared accommodations on every family trip for the past 5 years. That's what family does, my sister Jennifer interjected, her voice dripping with righteousness. My kids were looking forward to spending time with their cousins. But apparently yours are too good for that now. Dad set down his glass with a deliberate thunk. Selfish behavior shouldn't be rewarded. Maybe you should reconsider that beach house rental. Teach them a lesson about family values. I glanced at Emma, who was 11 and had been so excited about finally having her own room on vacation. Jake, at 9, had asked if he could bring his telescope to watch stars from a private balcony. Simple requests. Normal childhood desires for a bit of independence. They're just kids, I tried to explain. Spoiled kids, Jennifer corrected. When mine were that age, they never complained about sleeping on air mattresses in shared spaces. They understood sacrifice. Mom nodded vigorously. Exactly. You're raising them to be entitled. This vacation would only make it worse. Cancel it. Use that money for something practical. The pressure in my chest built steadily, but I kept my expression neutral. I'll think about it. Don't think, Mom commanded. Do the right thing. Those children need to learn consequences. I drove home in silence while Emma and Jake stared out the windows. Neither asked about the beach house. They'd learned, as I had years ago, that hoping for things in our family often led to disappointment. That night, after tucking them into bed, I sat at my laptop. The beach house rental confirmation glowed on the screen. $20,000 for 2 weeks in a modest coastal property. I'd saved for 18 months, working extra freelance projects, skipping lunches, budgeting every dollar. But Mom's words echoed in my mind. Jennifer's judgment. Dad's disappointment. My finger hovered over the cancellation button. Then I looked at the photo pinned to my bulletin board. Me at their age, squeezed into a corner during a family vacation, giving up my bed for cousins, sleeping on floors, always accommodating, always last. I closed the beach house tab. Instead, I opened a different browser window and began searching for something else entirely. 3 days later, I sent a brief text to the family group chat. Cancelled beach house rental. You were right. Mom's response came immediately. Good. Proud of you for making the mature decision. Jennifer added, this will be good for them in the long run. I didn't respond. I was too busy finalizing other arrangements. The following week, I picked up Emma and Jake from school with their suitcases already packed in the trunk. Where are we going? Emma asked cautiously, as if afraid to hope. Vacation, I said simply. But Grandma said. Grandma doesn't decide how I parent my children. Jake's eyes widened. Really? We're really going somewhere? Really? I didn't tell them where. I wanted to see their faces when we arrived. The airport was busy, but we moved through security smoothly. I'd prepared everything meticulously. Passports, documents, travel insurance. Emma held her small backpack carefully, treating the journey with reverence. When we reached the gate, she finally read the departure board. Mom, she whispered, her voice shaking. This says Maldives. It does. Like the actual Maldives? The islands in the Indian Ocean. The very same. Jake grabbed my hand, speechless for the first time in his life. His eyes were wide, reflecting the departure board's glow. The flight was long but comfortable. We had proper seats with entertainment systems and meals served on real trays. Emma watched 3 movies. Jake stared out the window for hours, mesmerized by clouds and ocean. When we landed, a resort representative met us with cold towels and welcome drinks. The speedboat ride to our overwater villa took 30 minutes, cutting through turquoise water so clear I could see fish swimming below. Our villa had 2 bedrooms, each with its own bathroom and balcony extending over the ocean. Emma stood in her room, staring at the glass floor panel that revealed water and marine life below, and started crying. "What's wrong?" I asked, alarmed. "Nothing's wrong," she sobbed. "Everything is perfect. This is the most beautiful place I've ever seen. Jake discovered the telescope in his room, left there at my request during booking. That night he identified constellations from his private deck while tropical fish swam in the illuminated waters below. We spent our days snorkeling, kayaking, and eating fresh fruit on our balcony. We took exactly 1 photo, a sunset shot from our villa deck with Emma and Jake silhouetted against an orange and pink sky. I posted it to social media with a simple caption: "Sometimes the right choice is the unexpected one." Within minutes, my phone began buzzing. Jennifer's message came first: "This is completely unfair." Then Mom: "I thought you canceled your vacation?" Dad: "How can you afford this?" I turned off my phone and returned to watching my children play in the shallow water near our villa, their laughter carrying across the lagoon. The messages continued to pile up over the next few days, though I checked them only once daily. Jennifer had apparently researched Maldives resort costs. Her texts grew increasingly agitated. "Do you know how much those overwater villas cost? That's months of mortgage payments, years of car insurance, college fund money." Mom organized a family video call which I declined to join. She left a voicemail: "We need to discuss your financial decisions. This is irresponsible. Those children don't understand the value of money now. You've ruined them." My cousin Sarah, who had always been kind, sent a different kind of message: "Good for you. I remember how many vacations you gave up for everyone else. Enjoy every second." On our 5th day, while Emma was learning to paddleboard and Jake was examining hermit crabs with a resort naturalist, my phone rang from an unknown number. "Is this Amanda?" a woman's voice asked. "Yes. This is Patricia from Luxury Travel Magazine. Your recent Instagram post was flagged by our algorithm. We're doing a feature on solo parents creating memorable experiences for their children. Would you be interested in being interviewed?" I blinked at the turquoise horizon. "I'm not sure I'm interesting enough for that." "On the contrary. Your post has been shared 8,000 times in the past 3 days. Parents are resonating with your caption about unexpected choices. We'd love to feature your story." I agreed to think about it and hung up, bemused. That evening another call came, this time from the resort manager. "Ms. Amanda, we've noticed your family has been exceptionally low maintenance and respectful during your stay. We'd like to offer you a complimentary upgrade to our premium villa for your remaining days, and we'd be honored if you'd consider writing a review of your experience." "That's very generous but unnecessary. Please. We insist. Your children's joy has been noticed by our entire staff. It's refreshing to see a family truly present and grateful." The premium villa was even more spectacular, with a private pool and dedicated butler service. Emma and Jake couldn't believe it was real. On our 10th day I finally called Mom back. "I hope you're satisfied," she began immediately. "Jennifer is devastated. Her children keep asking why their cousins get to go to fancy resorts while they're stuck at home. They're welcome to save for their own vacations," I said calmly. "Don't be smart. You know what I mean. This was excessive. Unnecessary. You canceled the sensible beach house just to prove a point." "I canceled it because you made me doubt my parenting. Then I realized you've been doing that my entire life, making me doubt myself, making me choose everyone else's comfort over my own children's happiness." Silence stretched across the line. "The beach house was $20,000, I continued. "This trip cost about the same, maybe a bit less actually, because I used miles and points I've been accumulating for years through work travel. The difference is that here my kids have their own space, their own rooms, their own privacy. They're not sleeping on floors or giving up beds or being made to feel guilty for wanting basic comfort. But the Maldives is actually affordable if you plan properly and use resources wisely. You assumed it was extravagant because you've always assumed I'm incapable of making good decisions. Jennifer assumed I was being irresponsible because she's never asked about my actual financial situation." More silence. "I have a successful freelance consulting business," I said quietly. "I make good money. I save carefully. I budget responsibly. And I decided my children deserved to feel special for once, without family judgment hanging over us. We were trying to teach them values. You were trying to control me like you always have. The difference is I'm not asking for permission anymore. I heard Dad's voice in the background asking what was happening. I need to go, I said. My kids want to do sunset dolphin watching. Amanda, wait. I hung up. That night, Emma asked the question I'd been expecting. Are we in trouble with Grandma? Probably, I admitted. But not the kind of trouble that matters. What kind matters? Jake asked. The kind where you compromise who you are to make other people comfortable. That's the trouble I'm trying to avoid teaching you. On our last day, the travel magazine interview was published online. It was tasteful, focusing on the importance of creating positive memories and trusting parental instincts. My family photo accompanied the article, though names were kept private at my request. Sarah texted, "Just read the article. You're my hero." Jennifer's message was different. "Everyone is talking about this article. They know it's you." Mom is mortified. I replied simply, "Good." The flight home was bittersweet. Emma and Jake were tanned and relaxed, full of stories about snorkeling adventures and evening fruit bat sightings. They'd made friends with other resort children and learned about marine conservation through the resort's environmental programs. At baggage claim, I turned on my phone fully for the first time in 2 weeks. 73 messages waited. Most were from family members, ranging from angry to confused to surprisingly supportive. Several aunts and uncles had apparently been following the magazine article controversy and had opinions about Mom's public criticism. One message stood out, from my younger brother Marcus, who rarely involved himself in family drama. "Dad called a family meeting about your rebellion. I told them if teaching kids they deserve happiness and personal space is rebellion, then maybe we should all rebel more often. Good job, sis." I smiled and slipped the phone back into my pocket. When we got home, Emma hung the sunset photo in her room. Jake started a journal about the marine life he'd observed. Neither mentioned the family drama or asked when we'd see their cousins again. 3 weeks later, I received a formal invitation to speak at a parenting conference about boundary setting with extended family. The organizer had read the magazine article and thought my perspective would resonate with their audience. Mom called the night before the conference. "I saw the speaking engagement announcement," she said stiffly. "Did you?" "Amanda, you're making this into something bigger than it needs to be. I'm sharing my experience. That's all. You're making me look like a villain. I've never mentioned your name publicly. If you feel villainized, perhaps that's worth examining." She hung up without saying goodbye. The conference went well. Dozens of parents approached me afterward, sharing their own stories of family pressure and judgment. Many were crying. Several thanked me for giving them permission to prioritize their children's emotional needs over extended family expectations. I drove home thinking about those conversations, about the ways we perpetuate patterns of control and guilt across generations, and about how breaking those patterns starts with a single decision to choose differently. Emma met me at the door with a drawing she'd made of our Maldives villa. "Can we go back someday?" she asked hopefully. "Absolutely," I promised. "And next time we'll stay even longer." Jake called out from his room, "And we'll still have our own rooms?" "Always," I called back. "You'll always have your own space." Later that evening, after the kids were asleep, I sat on the back porch with tea and my laptop. The family group chat had been quiet for days, an unusual silence that felt more peaceful than awkward. My phone buzzed with a text from Jennifer. "Can we talk?" I considered ignoring it, then decided that wouldn't serve anyone. "Sure," I replied. She called immediately. "I've been thinking," she started, her voice lacking its usual edge. "About what you said. About control and judgment." I waited. My kids asked me why we never do special trips, just our family. And I realized I don't have a good answer beyond, "That's not how our family does things." Which is exactly what Mom always said to us. "It's a hard pattern to break," I acknowledged. "I'm not apologizing for everything," she clarified. "But maybe I was too harsh about the room sharing thing. Your kids are good kids. They deserved a nice vacation." It wasn't a full apology, but it was something. "Thank you for saying that," I said simply. We talked for another 20 minutes, carefully navigating around deeper issues but finding small areas of understanding. It wasn't resolution, but it was a start. When I finally climbed into bed, I thought about the beach house we'd canceled, the family judgment we'd escaped, and the beautiful memories we'd created instead. Sometimes the right choice is indeed the unexpected one. And sometimes, teaching your children that they deserve happiness is the most important lesson of all. The dining room fell silent when Mom slammed her coffee cup down, the sound echoing off the hardwood floors. My sister Jennifer sat beside her, arms crossed tight against her chest, while her son Tyler smirked from across the table. My 12-year-old son Marcus stood frozen in the doorway, clutching the iPhone box he'd opened just minutes ago. "Your son doesn't deserve that birthday party," Mom said, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. "Not after embarrassing your nephew like this. Not after showing such terrible character." I looked up from my laptop where I'd been reviewing client reports. "What happened?" Jennifer leaned forward, her voice dripping with indignation. "Tyler asked to borrow Marcus's new phone for the school trip next week. A simple request. Marcus refused. Flat out said no. In front of all his cousins at the park. Tyler was humiliated. It was a graduation gift," I said quietly, keeping my voice level. "For finishing 6th grade with honors. Straight A's all year." "Tyler's phone is 3 years old," Mom interjected, her tone suggesting this was somehow my fault. "The screen is cracked. The battery barely holds a charge. Marcus could share for 1 week. Just 1 week. But no, your son had to be selfish. Had to show off his brand new expensive phone while Tyler suffers with a broken one." Marcus's eyes were getting wet. I could see him trying to hold back tears. I caught his gaze and gave a small shake of my head. "Not worth it. Don't give them the satisfaction." "The party is in 2 weeks, Jennifer added, warming to her topic. "You've been planning this big backyard thing for months. The whole family's invited. 60 people, you said. Catered food, DJ, the works. But honestly, after this behavior, does Marcus really deserve that kind of celebration? Shouldn't there be consequences for being so selfish?" I closed my laptop slowly, the click sounding loud in the tense silence. "What do you suggest?" "Cancel it," Mom said flatly. "Cancel the whole thing. Teach him about generosity. About family coming first. About thinking of others before himself. Maybe next year, when he's learned some values, he'll have earned a proper party." My son's face crumpled. I'd spent 3 months planning his 13th birthday celebration. 60 guests. Catered food. A local DJ. Professional photographer. The works. "I see," I said. "Good," Jennifer smiled. "I'm glad you're finally setting boundaries with him." I stood up. "Marcus, go pack your room, please." He looked confused but nodded and left. I heard his bedroom door close. "Pack." Mom frowned. "We're going away for a bit," I said. "I need to make some calls." I walked out before they could respond. In my home office, I pulled up my laptop and opened the travel folder I'd been quietly building for months. My fingers moved across the keyboard, confirming reservations I'd made weeks ago. The timing was actually perfect. That evening, I sat Marcus down in his room. His eyes were still red. "Are you mad at me?" he asked quietly. "For keeping your own gift?" I smiled. "Never. But we're not doing the backyard party." His face fell. "We're doing something else instead," I continued. "How do you feel about Tokyo?" He blinked. "Like, Japan, Tokyo. 2 weeks. Just you and me. We leave in 3 days." "But that's expensive," he whispered. He'd always been conscious of money, even though I'd shielded him from most financial discussions. "Let me worry about that," I said. "You worry about packing. Comfortable shoes. Your camera. Your passport is already current." His smile could have lit up the entire house. The next morning, Mom called. "Jennifer told me you actually canceled the party. I'm proud of you for following through." "Thanks, Mom." "So what are you doing instead?" "A small family dinner." "Something like that," I said. "We'll be out of town." "Where?" "Just a trip. I'll send pictures." She didn't sound satisfied, but I ended the call. Jennifer texted an hour later. "Heard you canceled. Good parenting. Maybe we can do something small for Marcus when you get back from wherever." I didn't respond. 3 days later, Marcus and I boarded the flight from Seattle. I'd booked business class. He'd never flown anything but economy. His face when he saw the lie-flat seats was worth every penny. "Mom, this is too much," he whispered. "You graduated with a 4.0, I said. "You volunteer at the animal shelter every weekend. You've never asked me for anything you didn't need. This isn't too much." "This is exactly right." 14 hours later we landed at Haneda Airport. The exhaustion from the flight melted away the moment we stepped into the arrivals hall. The car service I'd arranged was waiting with a professional driver holding a sign bearing our names. Marcus's eyes went wide at the black Mercedes sedan, gleaming under the airport lights. Our hotel was in Shibuya, the heart of Tokyo's energy. I'd chosen the Park Hyatt Tokyo, perched high above the city, the same location from that old movie Marcus had watched with me. The suite had floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the sprawling metropolis. 2 bedrooms, each larger than our living room at home. A marble bathroom with a soaking tub that could fit 4 people. A living area with couches soft enough to sink into. "This is like a movie," Marcus breathed, pressing his face to the glass as he watched the city lights stretch to the horizon in every direction. We spent the first 3 days exploring like locals. Sensoji Temple with its massive red lantern and clouds of incense smoke. Harajuku's wild fashion streets, where Marcus photographed everything from gothic Lolitas to businessmen in perfect suits. The Pokemon Center where Marcus nearly lost his mind, surrounded by 3 floors of merchandise he'd only ever seen online. I let him pick restaurants from a carefully researched list I'd been building for months. We ate everything from conveyor belt sushi, where plates cost $1 each, to a tiny ramen shop that seated exactly 8 people and had a line around the block. On day 4 we took the bullet train to Kyoto, watching Japan blur past at 200 miles per hour. I'd booked us into a traditional ryokan nestled in the hills outside the city. Marcus experienced his first onsen, the natural hot spring bath that required getting over his initial shyness about communal bathing. He learned to sleep on a futon laid directly on tatami mats, the scent of fresh straw filling the room. He wore a yukata to dinner, the cotton robe making him feel like he'd stepped into another century. The kaiseki meal had 17 courses, each one a tiny work of art. He tried everything, even the sea urchin that made his face scrunch up before he admitted it was actually interesting. "Best birthday ever," he said quietly as we walked through the Fushimi Inari shrine the next day, surrounded by thousands of vermilion torii gates snaking up the mountain. The orange tunnels seemed endless, each one donated by a business hoping for good fortune. "It's not over yet," I smiled, thinking about what I had planned for the coming days. Day 7 back in Tokyo I'd arranged something special that had taken weeks to secure. A private sushi experience with a master chef who'd trained for 30 years under his father, who'd trained for 30 years before that. Just the 3 of us in his tiny restaurant in Ginza, hidden down an alley you'd never find without directions. 8 seats total at the cypresswood counter. Marcus watched in complete silence as the chef explained each piece in careful English. The fish sourced that morning from Tsukiji, the rice temperature calibrated precisely to 98 degrees, the exact amount of wasabi ground fresh from the root. "Your son has excellent taste," the chef said in careful English. "He appreciates the details." Marcus beamed. That night, back at the hotel, I finally posted a picture to social media. Just one. Marcus standing in front of the Shibuya crossing at night, all the lights blazing behind him, the biggest smile on his face. The caption was simple: "Worth canceling the backyard party." My phone started buzzing within minutes. The notifications were relentless. "Jennifer, how could you do this? After everything we talked about." "Mom, call me immediately. We need to discuss this situation." "Jennifer again, that's a $10,000 trip at least. Probably more. You spent that on him after what he did? After he refused to help family? Then my brother David, who usually stayed out of family drama. Did you seriously take Marcus to Japan? Mom is losing her mind. She called me 3 times already. What's going on?" I turned my phone to silent and ordered room service. Marcus and I watched a movie with Japanese subtitles we couldn't read and ate overpriced club sandwiches that still somehow tasted better than anything back home. The beef was different. Even the tomatoes tasted better. The messages kept coming. I checked them the next morning over coffee while Marcus slept in, jet lag still catching up with him. "Jennifer, this is ridiculous. You're spoiling him rotten. Teaching him that being selfish gets rewarded. Tyler is heartbroken that Marcus gets this amazing trip for being mean to him. Mom, we need to talk about your priorities. This is not how you teach children values. This is not how we raised you. Your father and I are very disappointed. Dad, surprisingly, looks like you two are having fun. Stay safe. Send more pictures when you can. Aunt Linda, Jennifer showed me the picture. That hotel looks expensive. Very expensive. Are you sure you can afford this? I know single mothers have it hard. You shouldn't be spending beyond your means. I responded to none of them. Let them wonder. Let them stew in their assumptions. Days 8 through 10 were Disney Sea, Team Lab Borderless, and a day trip to Hakone, where we saw Mount Fuji perfectly clear against a blue sky. Marcus took 300 pictures. We rode the pirate ship across Lake Ashi. Ate black eggs boiled in volcanic springs. Stayed in another ryokan with private hot spring baths. Mom, Marcus said on the train back to Tokyo, why did Grandma want you to cancel my party? I'd been waiting for this question. She thought I should punish you for not lending your phone to Tyler. But it was mine, he said quietly. You gave it to me for graduating. I know. So why didn't you tell her that? Because some people don't want to hear the truth, I said. They want to hear what makes them feel right. And I decided I'd rather spend my energy on you than arguing with them. He thought about this. Is that why we came here instead? Partly. Mostly because you deserved something special and I wanted to give it to you. This must cost a lot. I smiled. Marcus, there's something I haven't told you about my job. He looked curious. You know I work from home doing consulting, right? He nodded. What I actually do is advise luxury travel companies on customer experience. I've been doing it for 8 years. The companies I work with pay very well, and they give me significant travel benefits as part of my contracts. His eyes widened. This trip, the flights, the hotels, a lot of it, is comped because of my relationships with these brands. The Park Hyatt, I consulted for them last year. The Ryokan in Kyoto, I helped them redesign their international guest experience. They've been asking me to visit and review the changes. So this is like work for you? It's both. I get to travel with you and provide feedback they value. Win-win. But you never told anyone in the family? They never asked what I actually do. Mom thinks I work customer service from home. Jennifer assumes I'm barely making ends meet. I never corrected them because it didn't seem important. Until now. Until they tried to tell me what my son deserves. The last 4 days were a whirlwind. We did a cooking class where Marcus learned to make real ramen from scratch. Visited the Ghibli Museum. Spent an entire day in Akihabara, where he found vintage Pokemon cards. I bought him every single one he wanted. On our final night I took him to the top of Tokyo Tower. The city spread out below us like a carpet of lights. Thank you, Marcus said quietly. For all of this. For not being mad at me about Tyler. You have nothing to apologize for, I said firmly. Your phone was your gift. You earned it. Nobody gets to tell you that you have to give away something that belongs to you. Not Tyler. Not Jennifer. Not Grandma. Nobody. But their family. Family doesn't mean you owe them everything you have. Real family celebrates your success, not demands you share it to make other people feel better. He hugged me tight. I love you, Mom. I love you too, kiddo. Happy birthday. We flew home the next day. I'd posted 3 more pictures throughout the trip. Each one generated dozens of messages I didn't read. At Seattle-Tacoma Airport baggage claim, my phone rang. I answered. You're back, she said coldly. Just landed. We need to talk about this Japan situation. Do we? You spent thousands of dollars on that trip. Money you could have saved. Money that could have gone to something practical. And for what? To prove a point. To celebrate my son, I said calmly. Who worked hard all year. Who earned his gift. Who didn't deserve to be punished for keeping what was his. You're spoiling him. I'm teaching him that effort has rewards. That he doesn't have to shrink himself to make others comfortable. That his mother has his back. Jennifer is very upset. Jennifer can be upset. That's not my problem. Silence on the line. The party you canceled, Mom continued. Jennifer said you'd planned to spend $15,000 on it. Roughly. And you spent that on Japan instead? Actually, the trip cost less because of my industry connections. But yes, I redirected that budget to something Marcus would remember forever instead of a backyard party he'd forget in 6 months. Your priorities are completely backward. My priorities are exactly where they should be. With my son. Don't expect us to support this kind of parenting. I've never expected your support, Mom. I've been doing this alone for 12 years. I'll continue just fine. I hung up. Marcus was watching me carefully. Is Grandma mad? Very, I said. Are you worried about that? He thought about it then shook his head. We had the best 2 weeks ever. If she can't be happy for me, that's her choice. That's exactly right, I smiled. Now let's go home. You have school in 2 days and probably a mountain of homework to make up. He groaned, smiling. 3 days later, a package arrived from the Park Hyatt Tokyo. Inside was a handwritten note from the general manager thanking me for my feedback, along with a voucher for a future 3-night stay. Also in the box was a framed photo of Marcus and me at the hotel, taken by their photographer on our last night. We were both laughing, Tokyo glittering behind us. I hung it in the living room where everyone could see it. Nobody from my family had visited since we got back. That was fine. The Sunday dinner had started normally enough. My 2 children, Maya and James, sat beside me at the long mahogany table in my parents' house, the same table where 3 generations had gathered for decades. The extended family filled the dining room as usual. 14 people crowded around the table with its white linen tablecloth and formal place settings. Aunts and uncles occupied the chairs closest to my parents, cousins scattered throughout in order of age and perceived importance. My sister Jessica sat directly across from me, her perfectly manicured nails tapping against her wine glass, a habit she'd developed whenever she felt superior about something. The crystal chandelier overhead cast warm light across the scene, illuminating the expensive china that Mother insisted on using even for family dinners. Everything had to project success, even when that success was built on secrets and carefully maintained appearances. Maya, my 7-year-old, had dropped her fork while reaching for her water glass. It clattered against the porcelain plate, the sound sharp during a momentary lull in conversation. A small accident, barely noticeable over the usual dinner chatter. But Mother's head snapped toward us like a predator who had just located prey, her eyes narrowing with that familiar expression of disapproval I'd come to know so well. Can't you control them? She asked, her voice cutting through the dinner chatter. I picked up the fork and handed it back to Maya. It was an accident. Everything with your children is an accident, Jessica added, rolling her eyes. Last week they were running in the hallway. The week before, laughing too loudly during Mother's book club. Uncle Thomas chuckled from the end of the table. Kids will be kids, but there are limits. My father remained silent, focused intently on cutting his roast beef. I noticed his jaw tightening, but he said nothing. I've been patient, Mother continued, setting down her silverware with deliberate precision. But my generosity has limits. You've been living here for 3 years now. Rent-free. The word hung in the air. Several relatives exchanged glances. I think it's time we discussed your contribution to this household, she said. $2,000 a month seems reasonable. Or perhaps you'd prefer to find your own place. Aunt Patricia nodded approvingly. Very fair, Margaret. Very fair indeed. Jessica smiled. Maybe it'll teach responsibility. Some of us didn't need to move back home in our 30s. I took a slow breath, watching my children. James, only 5, had stopped eating entirely. He looked up at me with worried eyes. Maya's small hand found mine under the table. The children are too noisy anyway, Mother added. They destroy my peace. Pay up or get out. Around the table, heads nodded. Uncle Thomas, Aunt Patricia, Jessica. Even Cousin David, who rarely spoke. A united front of family agreement that I had overstayed my welcome, that I was a burden, that my children were a nuisance. My father's knuckles were white around his knife and fork. Still he said nothing. I reached for my phone and opened my banking app. The relatives continued murmuring, already discussing how much rent I should pay, whether $2,000 was enough, whether I could even afford it. Interesting time to reveal who pays your mortgage, I said quietly. The conversation stopped. Mother's confident smile flickered, then faded entirely. What did you say? She asked. My father's voice was barely a whisper. Don't. But I was done being quiet. Done being treated like a charity case in front of my children. Done watching them learn that family meant humiliation and conditional love. I turned my phone screen toward Mother. I said, interesting time to discuss rent, considering I've been paying your mortgage for the last 4 years. The silence was absolute. Jessica leaned forward. That's ridiculous. Why would you? Because Dad asked me to, I interrupted, looking at my father. His face had gone pale and he had set down his silverware with shaking hands. 4 years ago in October, when the business failed. When the commercial clients all pulled out within the same month. When you remortgaged the house to cover outstanding debts and payroll, trying to keep everyone employed until the end. When you were 3 months from foreclosure and the bank was sending final notices. I could still remember that phone call. Dad's voice breaking as he explained the situation. How everything he'd built over 30 years had collapsed in less than 6 months. How Mother didn't know the full extent of the financial devastation. How he needed help but couldn't bear to ask anyone else in the family. Mother's hand trembled slightly as she reached for her water glass, nearly knocking it over. We never. Never what? Never told anyone. I scrolled through my banking history. $12,400 every single month for 48 months. That's $595,200 I've paid to keep this roof over your heads. Aunt Patricia's mouth opened and closed soundlessly. You're lying, Jessica said, but her voice lacked conviction. I stood, walked around the table and placed my phone in front of Mother. Transaction after transaction, all labeled the same way. Property payment, 123 Birchwood Lane. Her address. Uncle Thomas cleared his throat. Margaret, is this true? Mother couldn't seem to form words. She stared at the screen, her fingers scrolling slowly through the endless list of payments. We were going to tell everyone, my father finally spoke, his voice hoarse. Once we got back on our feet. Once the business recovered. It's been 4 years, I said. The business didn't recover. You sold it 2 years ago. I know because you called me crying about it, Dad. And I told you not to worry about the house payments, that I had it handled. Jessica's face had lost all its smugness, replaced by dawning horror as she processed the implications. But how could you afford? You said you were struggling. You said that's why you moved back home. You let me believe you needed help, that you were barely making ends meet. I moved back because Dad asked me to, I explained, my voice steady despite the emotion building in my chest. 3 years ago, right after Mom's surgery. The complications. The extended recovery period. He thought she needed family around during those difficult months. Thought the kids would cheer her up, give her something positive to focus on while she healed. I had a perfectly good apartment across town. 2 bedrooms close to the kids' school, a neighborhood where they had friends. We were happy there. The memory of that apartment felt distant now, like a life I'd lived in another world. A place where my children could be loud and messy and joyful without constantly being reminded they were inconvenient. I returned to my seat and put an arm around James, who had started crying quietly. Maya squeezed my hand tighter. I gave up my apartment, moved my children into a house where they'd be criticized for every sound they made, every moment of childhood joy. Because family needed me. Mother finally found her voice. We didn't know you were. We thought your father's consulting work was covering the mortgage. My consulting work covers groceries, Dad admitted quietly. Barely. The mortgage, the property taxes, the insurance, that's all her. Has been for years. Cousin David pushed back from the table. I need some air. Sit down, Aunt Patricia snapped at him, then turned to me. Why didn't you say something? Why let us think you were freeloading? Because Dad asked me not to, I said simply. Because he was embarrassed that the family business his father started 60 years ago had collapsed on his watch. Because he didn't want people to know how badly things had failed, how close you all came to losing this house. This symbol of family success and stability. Because he thought family is supposed to help each other quietly, without making a production of it, without demanding recognition or gratitude. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd kept quiet to protect his pride, and in doing so, had allowed my children and myself to become targets for the family's judgment and criticism. I looked around the table at each face, taking in their expressions. The smugness had evaporated completely, replaced by various combinations of shock, shame, embarrassment, and in some cases, a dawning anger at being kept in the dark about something so significant. Uncle Thomas looked betrayed. Aunt Patricia seemed unable to process the information. Cousin David had his head in his hands. But I'm done being quiet when my children are insulted in the house I pay for, I continued. Done being treated like a burden when I'm the only reason there's still a family home to gather in. Jessica's wine glass sat forgotten. All those times I commented about you not contributing. Mother, did you know? I thought. Mother's voice was shaky now. I thought we were managing. Your father said he had it under control. He did have it under control, I said, meeting my father's eyes across the table. Because he asked me for help and I gave it. No questions asked, no conditions attached, no demands for gratitude or recognition. Just help, quiet and consistent, because that's what I believed family does. That's what I was raised to believe family means. My father's eyes were wet now, tears he was too proud to let fall in front of everyone. Uncle Thomas stood abruptly, his chair scraping against the hardwood floor. This is quite a revelation, Margaret. Edward, I think perhaps we should give you some privacy to sort this out. No, Mother said sharply, her voice cracking slightly. Everyone stays. They all heard me humiliate my daughter at this table. They all nodded along when I demanded she pay rent or leave. They can all sit here and hear the truth about who's really been supporting this family. She turned to me and for the first time in 3 years, I saw actual emotion in her eyes. Not the cold disappointment I'd grown accustomed to, but something rawer. Him perhaps. Or regret. I didn't know, she said. I swear I didn't know. Would it have mattered? I asked. If you'd known I was paying the mortgage, would you have treated my children differently? Treated me differently? She couldn't answer. My father cleared his throat. I should have told her. Told everyone. But I was ashamed. The business my father built. The one I ran into the ground. The house almost lost. Having to ask my daughter to save us. I couldn't face it. So instead you let me face it, I said. Let me and my kids be the family charity case while I quietly kept everyone housed. Aunt Patricia set down her napkin. Margaret, I think I owe your daughter an apology. We all do. An apology doesn't change the bank account, Jessica muttered, then caught herself. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. My phone buzzed. A text message from my bank. The monthly automatic payment had processed. $12,400 withdrawn right on schedule. I showed the notification to Mother. That's this month's mortgage. Due on the 15th, paid on the 10th, just like always. Just like the last 48 months. She closed her eyes. I'm so sorry. Are you? I asked. Sorry I paid the mortgage or sorry everyone found out? Both, she admitted. And sorry that I made you feel unwelcome in a house you're keeping from foreclosure. Sorry I criticized your beautiful children who did nothing wrong except be children. Sorry I've been so blind. James tugged at my sleeve. Can we go now, Mom? I looked at my son's tear-stained face, at Maya's confused expression, at the table full of relatives who suddenly saw me very differently. Yes, sweetheart, I said. We can go. I stood and helped my children from their chairs. Around the table no one moved to stop us. Wait, my father said. Please. Let's talk about this. We can talk, I agreed. Tomorrow. When the kids aren't here to watch their family implode. Mother reached out as I passed her chair. Her hand caught mine. I was cruel. Unforgivably cruel. Please don't take the children away. You demanded I pay rent or leave, I reminded her gently. So I'm leaving. I'll keep paying the mortgage because I promised Dad I would and I keep my promises. But my children and I will find somewhere they can laugh without criticism. Somewhere they can drop a fork without judgment. Jessica stood. I'll help you pack. It's the least I can do. No need, I said. I've been looking at apartments for 2 months now. Since the last time Maya was scolded for singing. I have a place lined up. We can move in next weekend. Uncle Thomas spoke up. If you need help moving, I have a truck. Thank you, I said. I'll let you know. I guided my children toward the door. Behind us, the dinner table sat in shambles. Food growing cold, wine untouched. A family confronting truths they'd successfully ignored for years. At the doorway I paused and turned back. For what it's worth, I never wanted recognition. Never wanted gratitude. I just wanted my children to feel welcome in their grandparents' home. That's all I ever wanted. Mother was crying now, quietly, her perfect composure finally cracked. We left them there, my children and I, walking out to my car in the cooling evening air. Maya climbed into her booster seat, James into his. I buckled them both in and kissed their foreheads. Are we in trouble? James asked. No, baby, I assured him. We're not in trouble. We're going to be just fine. And for the first time in 3 years I believed it. My phone rang before I could start the car. My father's number. I let it go to voicemail. Then Mother's number, also voicemail. Then Jessica's. I silenced the phone and drove home through the quiet streets, my children already beginning to relax in the back seat, their earlier tension fading. The mortgage payment would clear tomorrow. The family home would remain secure for another month. And my children would learn that sometimes the strongest thing you can do is walk away from people who don't value you, even when those people are family. Especially when those people are family. Because real family doesn't demand rent from the person keeping them housed. Real family doesn't criticize children for being children. Real family doesn't mistake silence for weakness or humility for dependence. And my children deserve to learn what real family looked like, even if I had to build it myself one boundary at a time. The conversation happened 3 weeks before my sister Hannah's wedding. I was at my parents' house for Sunday dinner. My 7-year-old son Tyler was in the living room arranging his toy cars in perfect lines on the carpet. We need to talk about the wedding, Mom said, setting down her coffee cup with that firmness that meant the decision had already been made. I kept my face neutral. Okay. Hannah wants her day to be perfect, Dad added, glancing toward the living room where Tyler hummed softly. We've looked at the family photos from Christmas, from Thanksgiving, from your cousin's baby shower, Mom continued. Tyler is always blurry or looking away or making faces. Hannah has spent $40,000 on this wedding. The photographer alone costs $5,000. He's 7, I said quietly. He's just being a kid. He's disruptive, Mom corrected. Last month at the restaurant he had that meltdown over the music being too loud. Everyone was staring. He has sensory issues. I explained that. Dad leaned forward. Jennifer, we love Tyler. You know we do. But this is Hannah's special day. She deserves photos she'll actually want to look at. Maybe it's better if you just skip this one. The words hung in the air. Skip your own sister's wedding because your autistic son might not photograph well enough. We'll still list you in the program as family, Mom added as if that were some generous consolation. And we'll send you photos afterward. But Hannah really wants everything to be Instagram perfect, and Tyler just doesn't fit that vision. I looked at both of them, my parents whom I'd supported in ways they didn't even know about. I thought about the automatic payment I'd set up 6 years ago, the one that quietly left my account every month. The one they'd never questioned, never thanked me for because they didn't know it existed. I understand, I said simply. You're not upset? Mom seemed surprised. It's Hannah's day. She should have what she wants. Relief washed over their faces. They'd expected a fight, tears, arguments about discrimination and family values. Instead, I gathered Tyler's toys, helped him into his jacket and drove home. That night, I sat at my kitchen table with my laptop open. Tyler was asleep upstairs, exhausted from a full day. I logged into my banking portal and found the automatic payment I'd established in 2018. It started after Dad's business failed. They'd lost their main income stream and suddenly their comfortable retirement looked shaky. The house they'd owned for 30 years had a reverse mortgage they were struggling to maintain. Property insurance, homeowners insurance, the umbrella policy that protected their assets. All of it was at risk. I was working as a financial analyst then, making good money, and I was single. No Tyler yet, no expensive autism therapies, no special education consultants. I could afford to help. Just temporarily, Dad had said when they first mentioned their struggles. Just until we get back on our feet. But they never asked me directly for money. That would have required admitting they needed help. So I did it quietly. I contacted their insurance company, got the account numbers and set up automatic payments from my account. It was $8,500 annually for the comprehensive home insurance package that covered their $600,000 house and all its contents. For 6 years that payment had left my account every March 15th. They never knew. The insurance company sent the bills to their email marked paid, and they assumed their own bank account was handling it. I checked once carefully and confirmed they thought they were paying it themselves. 6 years. $51,000 total. Through my pregnancy, through Tyler's diagnosis, through the divorce when my ex-husband decided he didn't sign up for a special needs kid, through every expensive therapy and specialist appointment. I kept paying their insurance while they criticized how I managed my money. You should have a bigger emergency fund, Dad told me last year. You're living paycheck to paycheck, Jennifer. It's irresponsible. I was living paycheck to paycheck because $8,500 of my annual income went toward protecting their assets. Assets they'd now made clear didn't need to include my son in family memories. I clicked on the automatic payment and canceled it. The next payment was due March 15th, which was in 10 days, right in the middle of wedding week. For the next 3 weeks I kept my distance. Hannah called twice about wedding details, never mentioning that I wasn't invited. Mom texted about arrangements, excluding me from the family table layouts. I took Tyler to his occupational therapy. We practiced social stories about weddings he would never attend. We went to the park, the library, and his favorite pizza place. March 15th arrived. It was a Saturday. Hannah's wedding was scheduled for 4 p.m. at the Crystal Gardens venue, a place so expensive they required a $10,000 deposit just to book it. I took Tyler to the aquarium instead. He loves the jellyfish tank, the way they pulse and float in their rhythmic patterns. We spent 2 hours there and he was perfectly content. My phone started buzzing around 3:30 p.m. The first call was from Mom. I let it go to voicemail. The second call 3 minutes later was also Mom. Voicemail. Then Dad called. Voicemail. Hannah called. Voicemail. A number I didn't recognize. Voicemail. By 4:15 p.m., I had 14 missed calls. Tyler and I were eating ice cream in the aquarium cafeteria when I finally checked the voicemails. Mom's first message, 3:32 p.m. Jennifer, call me immediately. There's a problem with the house insurance. They're saying we don't have coverage. There must be a mistake. Call me back. Dad's message, 3:41 p.m. The insurance company says our policy lapsed. We're trying to fix this, but they're saying the last payment was March 15, 2024. That's a year ago. Jennifer, do you know anything about this? Call us back right now. The unknown number, 3:47 p.m., was from the insurance company representative. This message is for Mr. and Mrs. Peterson. We're calling regarding your homeowner's policy which has lapsed due to non-payment. We show the last payment was received in March 2024. Your current coverage is terminated. Please contact us immediately to discuss reinstatement options. Hannah's message for 02 p.m. was barely coherent. What did you do? Mom and Dad are freaking out. They're saying something about insurance you were paying? During my wedding, Jennifer? Really? You're doing this during my wedding. I finished my ice cream. Tyler was drawing on his paper placemat, creating elaborate patterns with the crayons the cafeteria provided. At 5 p.m. I called Mom back. Jennifer. She was breathless and I could hear wedding music and chatter in the background. What is going on? The insurance company says you were paying our home insurance? For 6 years. Yes, I said simply. Why would you? We never asked you to. I know. And you just stopped? Without telling us. Yes. There was a long pause. I could hear Dad's voice in the background, sharp and angry. Jennifer, the house is uninsured. Do you understand what that means? Something happens, we could lose everything. We need to reinstate this policy immediately. Then reinstate it, I said calmly. It's $8,500. We don't have that kind of money just sitting around. I know. I've been paying it for 6 years. Another pause. Tyler looked up at me, sensing something in my tone, but I smiled at him and he went back to his drawing. This is about the wedding, Mom said finally. You're punishing us. No, I said. I'm just not attending, just like you suggested. And my financial support isn't attending either. That's not. Jennifer, you can't just. I can, I interrupted, still calm. I have been for 6 years. While you told me I was irresponsible with money. While you complained that I couldn't afford nicer clothes or a bigger house. I was protecting your assets. But my son, your grandson, doesn't fit your Instagram vision, so we're not family enough for the wedding. I'm just wondering why we're family enough for financial support. I could hear her breathing, hear the chaos of the wedding reception starting in the background. The insurance company says we can reinstate it, she said, her voice smaller now. But we need to pay the full year up front, plus a $1,200 reinstatement fee. That's almost $10,000. That's expensive, I agreed. Jennifer, please. We can't afford this right now. Your father's retirement account is protected by the umbrella policy, which I also stopped paying for. That was another $2,300 annually. The silence stretched for almost 30 seconds. You've been paying. She couldn't finish the sentence. $10,800 every year. For 6 years. That's $64,800 total. While raising Tyler alone. While paying for therapies insurance doesn't cover. While you lectured me about financial responsibility. We didn't know, she whispered. You didn't ask, I corrected. When your bills showed up marked paid, you just assumed. You never wondered how you were managing it on Dad's reduced retirement income. Dad's voice came on the line. He must have taken the phone. Jennifer, we need to fix this. Let's talk about this rationally. I am being rational, I said. I'm making rational financial decisions about where my money goes. And it's not going to people who think my son ruins photographs. We never said he ruins. Mom's exact words were, your autistic son ruins all our photos. 3 weeks ago. In your kitchen. He was quiet. Here's what's going to happen, I continued, my voice still level. You're going to figure out your own insurance. You're going to pay your own bills. And you're going to decide whether Tyler and I are actually family or just inconvenient people who don't photograph well. Jennifer, that's not fair. You excluded a 7-year-old child from a family wedding because he has autism. You tell me what's fair. I hung up. Tyler and I spent the rest of the evening at home. We built a blanket fort and watched his favorite movie about trains. He fell asleep happy, unaware that his grandmother's perfect wedding had been derailed by insurance revelations. My phone kept ringing. I turned it off. The next morning I had 47 text messages and 19 voicemails. I read through them while Tyler ate his carefully arranged breakfast, each food group in its own section of the plate. Hannah, you ruined my wedding. Everyone was talking about the insurance thing instead of celebrating me. How could you? Dad, we need to discuss this like adults. Call me. Mom, I found the statements. You've been paying since 2018. Why didn't you tell us? We could have paid you back. An aunt I barely spoke to. I can't believe you ambushed your parents during Hannah's wedding. So inappropriate. And one from Mom, sent at 2:47 a.m. Tyler is welcome at family events. I'm sorry. Please call me. I didn't call back that day. Or the next. On Wednesday, a letter arrived via certified mail. It was from my parents' insurance agent, confirming that Mr. and Mrs. Peterson had reinstated their homeowner's policy with a payment of $9,700 on March 18th. They'd found the money somewhere. That evening, Mom showed up at my door. I almost didn't let her in, but Tyler was already running to the door, excited to see Grandma. I couldn't explain to him why she couldn't come in. She stood in my living room looking smaller than I remembered. I didn't know, she said. About the insurance. About any of it. You didn't want to know, I replied. It was easier to assume everything was fine. You should have told us. Would you have accepted it? Would Dad have let me help if he had known? She couldn't answer that. Tyler was showing her his newest drawings, chattering about the aquarium and the jellyfish. She listened, really listened, in a way I hadn't seen her do before. He's a good kid, she said quietly. He's always been a good kid. He just experiences the world differently. She nodded slowly. Hannah feels terrible. About what we said. Does she? Or does she feel terrible that her wedding became about something else? Both probably, Mom admitted. We handled this wrong. All of it. Yes, I agreed. You did. Can we fix this? I watched Tyler, who had moved on to arranging his toy cars in the pattern that made sense to him. Perfect lines organized by color, each one exactly 2 inches from the next. That depends, I said. Are we family? Really? Or are we just people who share DNA and show up when it's convenient and photogenic? Mom was crying now quietly. Your family. Tyler is family. I'm sorry we made you feel otherwise. I don't want apologies, I said. I want things to change. I want Tyler included, not just tolerated. I want you to understand that he's not a problem to manage or hide. He's your grandson. I know. Do you? Because 3 weeks ago, you didn't think he was worth having in family photos. She flinched. I was wrong. We were wrong. Hannah was wrong. We got caught up in this idea of perfection and we forgot what actually matters. I didn't respond immediately. Tyler came over and leaned against my leg, tired from his busy day. I put my hand on his head and felt his soft hair under my palm. The insurance money isn't coming back, I said finally. I'm done subsidizing people who don't value us. I understand. And if there's ever another family event where Tyler isn't welcomed, where we're asked to stay home or hide, we're done. Completely. There won't be, she said firmly. I promise you, Jennifer. There won't be. I wanted to believe her. I wasn't sure I did yet. We'll see, I said. She left shortly after, hugging Tyler goodbye and squeezing my hand in a way that felt like both an apology and a plea. That night, after Tyler was asleep, I sat with my laptop and looked at my bank account. An extra $10,800 annually would make a difference. Real therapy for Tyler, not just the basics insurance covered. Maybe a proper vacation somewhere he'd enjoy. Maybe just breathing room in a budget that had been tight for too long. My phone buzzed. A text from Hannah. I'm sorry. Really sorry. Can we talk? I turned off my phone. Maybe we'd talk eventually. Maybe things would change. Maybe my family would learn that Tyler's worth wasn't measured by how well he smiled for cameras or sat still during formal dinners. Or maybe they wouldn't. Either way, I was done paying for the privilege of being dismissed. I was done making myself smaller so they could feel comfortable. I was done protecting people who wouldn't protect my son. Tyler was safe, loved, and valued in our home. That was what mattered. Everything else was just noise. Expensive noise I'd finally stopped paying for. The insurance bill would arrive again next March. It wouldn't have my name on the payment. And that, I thought, was exactly how it should be.